time to talk Africa. Welcome to the show. This week we focus on matters of agriculture and growing the culture of practicing agribusiness across the African continent. We speak to Koffi Annan, who's been at the helm of AGRA. We get his views on the issues. We get your views as well. And we have Africa's top 10. You're watching the Africa Leadership Dialogues. I'm Julie Gichuru. On the show this week, we focus on agriculture and the importance of ensuring that agribusiness is happening right across the African continent to feed the African population, but also perhaps turn Africa into the breadbasket of the world. Our guest this week is none other than former UN Secretary General Koffi Annan. Now, he's known for many things, but perhaps one of the most important things he will do, the most important legacy he will leave, is ensuring that more people understand the importance of agriculture and agribusiness, not just across Africa, but globally, empowering Africans to feed themselves. This is what is critical on a continent that has seen so much aid pouring in, food aid coming in to feed the people. How can we ensure Africans are feeding themselves? Critical questions for the continent. We get his views on the issues. Thank you so much for making time for the Africa Leadership Dialogues. It's great to have you with us.
I'm very happy to be with you and to see you again.
Thank you. Here at the AU, we're meeting to discuss agriculture across the continent. There's a lot of hope and there's a feeling that more people are engaging in agriculture, and yet there's still so much poverty, there's so much food insecurity. What are your thoughts, 8 years from the launch of AGRA, on where we are now?
I think we've made some progress, but we still have a long way to go. We need to be able to transform African agriculture in a manner that will not only increase productivity, but even allow us to help feed the masses of the world. We should be able to export our products to the market, and if we focus on agriculture and transform it the way I see it, all along the value chain, we can create lots of employment for our young people. Agriculture has many aspects. You have the work on the farm, you have to transport it to the market, you have to market it, you have to process it, you have to warehouse it, and it creates lots of jobs in the middle. The middle is almost missing. And the way we believe we should transform agriculture and work with agribusinesses, we can create lots of jobs for the young people. 2/3 of Africans work on the farm. And if we are able to do that, young people will have meaningful jobs and they will perhaps stay in the countryside and not rush to the cities to end up in the slums.
Right. I'll come back to the issue of young people a little bit later, but staying with agriculture, what are we getting right now and where do we still have challenges?
I think we realize that we need to have the right inputs. By inputs, I mean the right seeds, the fertilizer required, amount of water, irrigation, and try to get more crop per drop. And because for years we were using seeds which were 20, 25 years old, whereas in other countries there's constant research with the end result that the yield of African farmers, mainly women who work very hard, was about 1/3 of the global average. With better seed varieties, they are also increasing their production. And if we can help them market it, if we can help them warehouse it and have commodities exchanges where they can really place their produce, we will make quite a lot of progress. Where we have problems is sometimes land tenure. Land tenure, land laws and how you use land, and the litigation that surrounds land, which sometimes makes it difficult for people to come in, acquire land, and cultivate
and
the
farm.
agriculture.
Right. The issue of climate change. Is Africa ignoring what could be a crisis? Do we need to pay more attention, or is it happening?
It is happening, and we need to pay more attention. We need to adapt to what we call a climate smart agriculture, climate resilient. Try to make sure we have the right seeds. Seeds, for example, that sometimes can grow in drought environment. Seeds that sometimes can grow in flood environment. We need to make sure that we conserve water and we are able to prepare for the rainy day. And I think Africans are learning. I was 3 years ago, I went to visit a farm in Mali, and there were several seeds. Some had very short period to maturity, others had longer period. And this illiterate farmer was telling me why I love these seeds. And I said, of the 6 seeds, which one would you select? He said, well, my father, who had learned farming from my grandfather, told me that we should plant from this period to this period because that's when the rains come.
Right.
These days, the rains don't come. And so I don't want to get a seed that takes so long to mature.
Right.
I would take this one, which is 3 months. It's more expensive, but I get better yield. And I do not risk losing all my investments because the rains didn't come.
Right, we've got to adjust.
And he had adjusted, he had factored it in. And there he was sitting on the farm. And sometimes we think they don't get it. They get it faster than
they get it more than we.
The farmers are very smart.
Right. Just looking at AGRA, it's been 8 years since the launch. I remember the launch in Cape Town, South Africa. What do you feel has been most important in terms of the accomplishments?
I think we've been part of the movement to transform African agriculture, to push for a green revolution in Africa. And today, wherever you go, in policy circles, economic centers, they are talking about African agriculture. They are talking about investments in agriculture, and people are beginning to invest in agriculture. AGRA has helped train many PhDs and scientists, master's degrees, to work in our fields, because agriculture is also science, and we often don't have the scientists. And when I said that other countries have better seeds and they are constantly doing research, we were lagging behind. So we've trained quite a lot of scientists. We have recruited what we call agro dealers. These are small-scale shopkeepers, mom-and-pop shop, dotted around the countryside, who would ensure that the farmers get the inputs they need, seeds, fertilizers, and they don't have to travel 150 miles to go and get it in Nairobi or Accra. And these things are helping. And what is more important is the fact that people now realize agriculture is not only important for us to feed ourselves, but if you handle it well, it also broadens the economic base for development. It can help quite a lot of people.
It's a transformative, definitely, it's a transformative area. Let's go now to the question of peace, security across the continent. It's something we've been grappling with for the longest time. You've been involved in several processes. One of them, of course, was the Kenya process in 2007, 2008, the mediation process. Looking at Kenya today, what do you feel? What do you think?
I think I was very proud of the Kenyans, the way they pulled themselves from the brink in 2008 and the maturity that they showed. I was able to deal with Kenyans right across the board, from the political leaders to women's groups, religious groups, businessmen, and youth groups. They all wanted peace. They all understood which direction the country must go in. And in fact, there were times when I thought they understood it better than their politicians. And they were serious about it. Without the commitment, the engagement, and the support of the Kenyan people, what we were able to do in 2008, pulling back from the brink, could not have happened. The credit goes to them.
That's a powerful statement.
And I will hope they will stick with it and try and steer things in the right direction. They should not leave it to the politicians alone. They have to put their feet to the fire and maintain the pressure.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
That's very interesting, because you raised then the responsibility and the role of the citizenry. And we're seeing conflicts emerging in various parts of the continent, some of them incredibly vicious and vile conflicts. We're seeing the terrorist threat, very real in places like Nigeria and Kenya. How does a citizen play a role in such circumstances?
Yeah, it is a very serious problem for our continent. And I've always maintained that if we could find a way of ending these social and brutal conflicts around our continent, we will take off economically and provide prosperity for our people that they haven't seen before. But we have to focus on ending these conflicts and then work hard on the essential work of economic development to bring welfare to our people. I think what is important is that we need to build trust. Trust between the leaders and the people. Trust between the security forces and the people. The best security you have is when the people have trust in the security forces and the police, and they work with them, they share information with them, they go to them with information before terrible things happen. But to do that, the police has to treat them properly. The military has to treat them properly. They should be on the same side, not for the people to say, there they come again. And in some situations, they see the police as the enemy, which should not be done. And I think if we can create that sort of people policing, where the population works with you, you're going to do much better. The governments must also share information about terrorism, not give them haven, not make them, not transfer their money, allow them to use their banks, and really constantly deprive them of the opportunities that they should have.
To penetrate society.
And I'm not sure that cooperation is there or is what it ought to be.
Still with issues of conflict and security, two critical issues. Number one is funding. Is there work going into, seeking and finding those who are funding these conflicts? Number two is the arms trade. How are those being addressed?
It's interesting you raise this question. In fact, I set up a West African Commission on drugs. And I was concerned about, which was chaired by former President Obasanjo of Nigeria, and brought together representatives from all along the West African ECOWAS. It was civil society, governments, legal people, and some from business, to really look at this issue, because drugs has a way of penetrating society. And if it does, the young people begin to use it, or people in society. We often think it's just in transit, but the title of our report is not just in transit.
It's actually penetrating our communities.
And they have lots of money. They are corrupting politicians, judiciary, customs, police, and you need to find a way of dealing with these people. And above all, it destroys the lives of young people. It's often we go after the small ones, the small fry. The real barons, drug barons, get away. A young person seen with a bit of half a kilo or something of hashish ends up in jail, and sometimes they are destroyed for life. They come out of jail better criminal as a criminal. And and this is not an African problem. Even in the United States, Some states are spending more money on prisons than on education. So we are asking, the policy has not worked, the policy on war on drugs, so we need to rethink. With alcohol, when prohibition didn't work, we changed it. And we need to be able to look at our laws and change it, and also give these young people advice, health assistance, come in with public health approaches rather than pushing it underground and putting lots of money in the pockets of these drug barons, who then use the money to undermine our society. When we talk of elections,
to maintain their power structures,
exactly,
and yes,
exactly. And when in elections, when you throw in lots of money at democracy, you hollow out democracy,
right.
And a lot of that is going on.
What are your thoughts on the arms trade?
The arms trade is also a difficult one to handle. I mean, there has been attempts to register and mark weapons so that one can trace where they came from, who sold them to whom, and it was to be an international regime. It hasn't totally succeeded, but I think we should persist. And the arms trade must not only be controlled, but in situations where there are conflicts, where people are being killed, it's almost unconscionable for commercial reasons to send in more weapons.
Absolutely.
So that more people can get killed.
Absolutely.
And some of these traders must be exposed to the public for them to know where the weapons are coming from, and for the people to be held to account. How do you explain sending more weapons to such a situation?
Absolutely.
Where kids and women are being killed and raped.
Is the African Union and are African leaders focused on these issues, do you think? Does it matter to them? Are they pushing?
They have so many other issues that I have a feeling some of these issues we are discussing are not the highest on their agenda.
And yet still critical.
It's critical. But this is where civil society has a role. Civil society should raise some of these issues and make sure they stay higher up the political agenda and action is taken. These days, we can't leave things to governments alone. Civil society has an important role. The private sector has influence and an important role to play. And so we should really use all the means we have to ensure that these critical issues are dealt with.
You've touched on the youth several times, and it's I would think the greatest opportunity for the continent. It's also a looming crisis if not managed well. Very briefly, please share your vision and your thoughts for the youth in Africa.
I think we are the youngest continent. About 25%, about 50% of our population will be under 25 years old. We have lots of young people coming out of universities and institutions without jobs, who find their situation desperate and hopeless. We are educating and putting people out on the market, but I'm not sure what we are educating and preparing them for. I would want to see a situation where not only we give them real skills, but in addition to university education, have serious training for skills training, whether it's carpentry, whether it's the technician, so that when these young people come out and they don't find jobs, they can create their own companies. Opportunity. I mean, when you see what's happening in places like Germany and Switzerland, where they take technical education seriously, and it's also linked into the corporations, helping train the workers of the future.
Right.
It makes quite a lot of difference. And this is also where I believe agriculture can create hundreds of thousands of jobs for these young people. But for them to get into agriculture, we have to make agriculture respectable. We have to let them know it's an important profession, and farmers are noble, because we brought our kids up to feel that successful people are not farmers. Successful people don't go into farms. That is absolute nonsense. I mean, when I stepped down as Secretary General I realized the importance of, I'd been talking about the importance of agriculture and decided I would devote quite a bit of my time.
And we appreciate that. Farming was the first career, food.
Yeah.
Please, we're winding up now. Just look into the camera for us and deliver a message directly to Africans watching. What role can they play in transforming this continent? What hope and inspiration can you share, please?
I would want to see an Africa which is free of conflicts. Today, many people around the world think of Africa in terms of a dark continent full of conflicts, full of brutality, and yet today we are seeing great possibilities for Africa in terms of economic development and others. If we can walk away from these conflicts and focus on economic and social development and uplift our people, we will be doing them a great service. What I would also say is that as individuals, people must realize that they have power. Civil society has a lot to do. Businesses have a lot of influence. And as individuals, you have power in the choices you make, how you vote at time of elections. You must also understand that you are not powerless. In situations where leaders fail to lead or are unable to lead, the people can make them lead, the people can make them follow. So don't sit on your hands and say, what can I do as an individual? There are many more individuals like you who want to do something. Come together and make sure we change our societies for the better.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great pleasure.
Good.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
I am Koffi Annan, and I'm watching the African Leadership Dialogue.
Fascinating insights from Koffi Annan there. Time now for your views on the issues.
This week we asked you, how can we ensure that political power is not misused in the management of public affairs in Africa? Muriat says, by ensuring we have strong and independent institutions.
Hi, my name is Charlene. I'm watching ALD from Nairobi, and my answer to the question as how we can ensure political power does not misuse the public area sector is that it comes into the appointment of leadership. The leaders appointed in the different sectors of public affairs should not be anyway politically affiliated to the people currently in political power. And I also think that that leadership appointment should not come from the people who are currently involved in political power. So they should work as independent entities in that they have their own appointment of leaders. And yes, they do indeed have to work with those in political power, but should be in no way associated with them in their appointment, because the beginning is where things now come to be in place.
To join our conversation, go to our G+ page, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Facebook, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Twitter, @AfricaLD, and on WhatsApp, send your video comments to +254 715 816 033.
And now we have Africa's Top 10.
On Africa's Top 10 this week, we feature the most peaceful countries in Africa. This is according to the Global Peace Index. The Global Peace Index is composed of 22 indicators ranging from a nation's level of military expenditure to its relations with neighboring countries and the percentage of the prison population. Starting us off at number 10 is Senegal with an overall score of 1.97 and a global ranking at number 72. Coming in at number 9 is Gabon with a global ranking of 68 and an overall score of 1.95. Positioned at number 8 with an overall score of 1.94 is Sierra Leone. It is ranked 66th globally. Taking the number 7 spot is Morocco with an overall score of 1.92 and a global ranking at number 65. At number 6 is Ghana. The West African state received an overall score of 1.9 and a global ranking at position 68. Tanzania comes in at number 5 with an overall score of 1.89. It is ranked at number 59 globally. Slotted in at number 4 is Lesotho. The small South African nation attained an overall index of 1.84 and is ranked 50th globally. At number 3 is Namibia. Ranked at position 48 globally, Namibia clocked an overall score of 1.81. Coming in at number 2 is Zambia with an overall score of 1.79. It is positioned at number 44 globally. And at number 1 this week is Botswana. With an overall score of 1.68, it is ranked 36th globally. And that's Africa's Top 10 this week.
We close the show, as always, with some powerful words. And this week we have a Congolese proverb. It goes, "When the leg does not walk, the stomach does not eat." And so let's all get walking so we can all be eating. Blessings to you and blessings to Africa.